Hey y'all, Leah Lord, a mega church cult survivor. I was in a mega church for 18 years. Now I've turned social justice activist and I'm just like out here trying to save the world and whatever. Anyway, I came across this really interesting article, and it talks about like the brain and consciousness, etc. And I've been trying to like tell you guys that we need to move away from like this over spirituality malarkey that they teach us. This is why our heads are in the clouds. So I'm going to try and explain the revelation that I got with this article, and I really hope that it's going to help a lot of people. They conducted some research, and basically the study shows that the conscious thought relies on synchronized brain rhythms to maintain the communication between the cognitive brain regions and sensory. So basically what they did was they looked at general anesthesia and they saw that the rhythm-based communications, it breaks down or it disrupts the brain's ability to like detect and process surprising stimuli. So this is talking about the fight or flight mode and the person's ability for the brain to send those frequencies to be able to create stimuli, to detect, to process, to feel, to be aware of danger, etc. Anyway, this article found that the brain frequencies enable consciousness, and it's through awareness by linking the front and the back of the brain. So this is where the cognitive and the sensory functions are. So basically they found that when under anesthesia, it disrupts our ability to perceive and respond to like unexpected events. So my whole thing is, it's like we're put under a spiritual anesthesia and we can't perceive anymore. Basically, the revelation I got during reading this article, was like, basically we get put into this spiritual anesthesia and then it's like we're put to sleep. So I think the same way that they indoctrinate us is the same way, like in the physical, when we're put under anesthesia and we're totally cut off from the outside world, the ability to feel and touch. And that's why they're walking around like zombies, the mega church cults. What I found really interesting was that anesthesia disrupts the brain's predictive abilities by desynchronizing rhythms. Cognitive and sensory brain areas lose connectivity under anesthesia. Do you see that when we're indoctrinated, it does the same thing with our brain? I think it has the same effect on our psyche. And so I'm using this to do like a comparative analysis. I hope this is making sense. This part of the article I found really interesting because it talks about the brain constantly working to make predictions about what's going on around us, to prepare for the unexpected, what we can consider, how to get out of it. And when this process happens, it disables the synchronized communication, which is mediated by brain rhythms and specific frequency bands. In a nutshell, when you're under the anesthesia, the basic sensory and higher order cognitive regions of the brain is shut down, and the brain needs those rhythmic processes to predict unexpected events, to keep us safe. Do you see, guys, when they put us under a spiritual anesthesia, we're not able to predict those events, lose sense of self and awareness, and we get put into like a spiritual sleep. So this research is evidencing it in the physical, but it's to do with the psyche and the subconscious. So this definitely relates to the rhythmic and the frequencies of, the brain and how we're affected during the indoctrination process, which is, I think, very similar to the anesthesia process. How the brain would manage being in fight or flight survival mode for long periods of time. And so we move into a cognitive dissonant state where our reality and our perception of that becomes seared and we can no longer make decisions and judgments of our own. That's exactly what they want us to do. They want us to be cut off from awareness and consciousness, because then they can indoctrinate us and maintain control a lot easier. You see why now, when we're in these mind altered states and these deliverances and all of these weird situations, it's actually our brain that alters, guys. And that then has a profound effect on our body. Remember I said to you that the body keeps the score and trauma is stored up in the body. But these fake pastors will have you believing that there's a crocodile sitting on your head. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I found this really interesting because it was talking about the brain rhythms which prepare us to attend to surprises. Now, if they're indoctrinating us heavily and we're under this spiritual anesthesia, then the brain can't rhythmically tell us what's going on. But guys, this says the propofol general anesthesia deactivates the top-down processes that underlie cognition. It essentially disconnects communication between the front and back halves of the brain. Guys, this is so deep because anesthesia, it literally cuts off those frequency rhythms of the brain, taking us into a subconscious state. This is exactly what they do to us spiritually, but I know that there's physical impacts of the trauma on the brain, because when they're heavily indoctrinating you, your brain literally it gets shut down. And I'm sure there's certain signals supposed to pop off and do whatever they're doing, but they're not doing that because we're literal robots being indoctrinated severely day after day. Every time we were doing up prayer meetings, rehearsals and whatnot, we were being indoctrinated fully, child. Guys, this is why I'm saying to know thyself, man. Love yourself. Study to show yourself approved. Because isn't it so much easier to believe that a prophet's going to come and take away all the pain than actually studying about the psyche and how your brain develops and how trauma has an impact on your physical body? Guys, we need to use a lot of logical and critical thinking and analysis, man, because our heads were in the cloud for so many years. Please deconstruct. Guys, when they're indoctrinating us, the prefrontal areas that help to spark an ignition event in our brain is literally getting shut down. The ability for our thoughts, which is sensory information, to become conscious is shut down. I've heard a lot of survivors say that these mega church cults are like dream unalivers because the part of the brain that allows us to have opportunity, creativity, all of that is getting shut down, child, because they put us in a spiritual anesthesia state. So it's like our brain waves are like not working when you go under anesthetic. When neurons become more disorganized, then the ability to make predictions and prepare for unexpected events is weakened. Do you see when they're indoctrinating us, we go into this spiritual anesthesia state where we can't see dangers coming and we don't even know that what they're doing is dangerous because we're completely cut off from reality. It rewires the whole functioning of our brain, guys. This is deep. Child, these cult leaders have literally cut off our prefrontal cortex activation. Are you serious? And sensory cortex activation for conscious perception. In a nutshell, guys, we're not in the conscious. Remember, we kept saying we feel like we're in a different reality at different times. Literally because our brain is not functioning the way it's supposed to function because of this indoctrination. Guys, this prefrontal cortex thing is so important. We need it for conscious perception, to be able to know our surroundings, to be aware. Do you see how this cuts off our ability to detect these fake pastors, fake prophets, fake pastorettes? Because spiritually, we've been put under this spiritual anesthesia. Is that making sense? So the same way the physical body works when that process is happening, spiritually, it cuts us off from the outside world and it affects our brain and rewires our brain. And it affects our subconscious, our psyche, the way that we think, we act. Because remember, guys, the main way that they brainwash you is through the thought reform program and the transcendent belief system, which keeps you trapped in the self-sealing system. Guys, I know this is a lot of information and it's a bit of a higher learning, but I really wanted to put this information out there because they don't teach this in the churches and then we're just like psychologically trapped. And I want to put a little bit more kind of scientific, psychological information out there so that we can really truly set ourselves free. Anyway, I hope this content has helped to create awareness. My name's Leah Lauder, mega church cult survivor turned social justice activist. Please check out my crazy wacky content on mega church cults.